Hello there guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm here with another one of my 90-day Fiance specials. So as you know, I dropped a couple of videos yesterday and I'm trying to focus in on those who are delusional. And who better to peer through my giant magnifying glass with today but the one and only Tania. And so today's video is going to be Tania's top 10 red flags. And these are all the red flags that Syngin should be noticing before deciding whether or not he should tie the knot with Tania. Please guys, don't forget to subscribe and to like the video, and it does help my analytics if you like the video because YouTube tends to promote it more. And please don't forget to subscribe for regular videos and regular specials. Also don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Ebird99. So I've seldom met somebody with delusions of grandeur as unbelievable as Tania, and because of these delusions she treats those around her very badly. Tania tells us she's independent but she lives at home in her mum's shed, and fans have called her many things such as despicable, delusional, cold, mean, but I however just think that she's selfish. Tania is what you get when you cross a joke with a rhetorical question. And so if you ever needed evidence of how delusional Tania is, it was the time when production was standing on a Costa Rican beach filming Tania in the sea with a G-string on. Tania, wow, just wow. Tania's a little more bomb-site than bombshell, and although she believes herself to be hot, she's usually a hot mess. And with the power that God has vested in me, I feel compelled to let you know of the top 10 red flags of Tania. So the first one was when Syngin came to New York, and the truth be told, this whole trip was one big red flag. Tania had production follow her around sex shop where she purchased toys and edibles and so on, because she booked a room for her and Syngin in a New York hotel for the first couple of nights whilst he was in America so he could look around New York. And when I first saw it I thought, you're sharing a little bit too much information, but then I realised she was sharing a whole lot more. Her two best friends, Frick and Frack, were along for the trip. Tania, what are you thinking? So Tania spent so long getting ready, she was almost late to meet Syngin off the plane, and when she did so, Frick and Frack spread rose petals all over the floor of the airport, just like they did in Coming to America. Tania, 1, health and safety, 2, somebody else has to sweep that up. But the selfishness didn't end there. Frick and Frack were with them every step of the way for the next 2 days, giving them what seemed like only a couple of hours of naughty time, and at the end of that 2 hours they were rat-a-tat-tat on the door, demanding that Tania and Syngin come out with them for shots. So well done Tania. You invite somebody over to get to know someone for 90 days with a view to marrying them, and you waste the first 3 or 4 days with your mates. And the worst thing is, they're not even fun. I'm not saying they're big girls, but wherever they are in the room, they're next to you. Syngin tried to hint, but none of them took "piss off please girls" for an answer. And in at red flag number 2 was the beautiful and luxurious accommodation that Tania had all ready for Syngin's visit. So remember, Tania told us, whatever I want to achieve, I always achieve. I'm a go-getter. I reach for the stars and I at least get to the moon. And go-getter Tania had decided she needed to save money, and so she asked her mum if she could live in the shed in the backyard. Now this shed is about 10 square metres, it's not particularly big, but when Syngin turned up at her mum's house, it was like a waste ground. It had all old rubbish and bric-a-brac all around, none of the shelves were put up, no bedding was on, it was basically just upside down. And so this go-getting, hyper-organised girl, Tania, couldn't even be bothered to straighten up one room for her fiance, who'd flown 9,000 miles to be with her. Delusion runs rampant in Tania's head. And the next red flag was her trip to Costa Rica. And so Tania was going to do a witch doctor course, and she was going to learn how to do herbal remedies and herbal medicines on a 30-day course in Costa Rica. This was slap bang in the middle of the 90 days that they were supposed to be using to get to know each other. And so Tania told us this trip was going to be a life-changing experience, and she was going to learn all about herbs and alternative medicine. But unfortunately, Syngin wasn't going to be able to go with her because he wasn't allowed to leave the country. But the biggest red flag was the actual course itself. And so I managed to track down the herbalism school where Tania completed her intensive course. And Tania's workshop included courses on indigenous herbal medicine, plants native to the South Caribbean region, and much more. And so Tania completed a tropical herbal medicine apprenticeship at the Wild Ginger Herbal Centre. So looking at the course itself, it looks as if it's a very low level course. And that's not to say that it's pointless, but just that it would be very difficult selling these herbal remedies because lots of the remedies are to everyday ailments and illnesses. Tania's 30 days away in the middle of Syngin being there, it would seem, was folly to say the least. However, it turns out that Tania couldn't actually afford to pay for this, and Soap Dirt, which is a gossip website, reported that Tania had been asking for donations to actually do her course and she actually had a crowdfunding post, and she was asking friends and family to help her pay for the trip. So the course itself was $2,500, but the flights were extra, so it's probably in excess of $3,000. And she said, "Thank you so much in advance of you donating. I can't wait to share what I've learned with you all." And so after this period of 30 days away, Tania and Syngin only have a remaining 60 days to get to know each other. Certainly not ideal. Although Syngin, it did only take me 30 minutes to make my mind up about Tania. And so red flag number 4 is very closely linked to red flag number 3, and it's to do with her course and Tania's idea of business. So Tania thinks that having taken this 30-day course, she'll be able to set up her own business, making and giving herbal remedies. However, she doesn't seem to have taken any business courses, and she doesn't seem to know the actual concept of business. So when she was trying to actually get funding for this course and do crowdfunding, she was at her family home one day with Syngin, and she actually said, "When I've done the course, I'm going to come back and teach everybody everything I know so we can all benefit from this information." Tania, that is not how you run a business. You run a business by keeping the information all to yourself and charging a premium for that business. What you're supposed to be doing is learning something that nobody else knows or few people know, working out how to make capital on what you've learned, and working out your ideal customer base. And usually things like that start with family and friends, and then you charge more for it, and then you charge more for your services than it costs you to learn. That is how you run a business. And it's a big red flag to me if Tania doesn't understand the basic concept of business. Yet she's asking friends and family for money for a very expensive course. And red flag number 5 was her gaslighting Syngin. So when she decided to go away for this 30 days, she suddenly sprung it on Syngin, and he was quite good about it all. He agreed to her going, and she said, "You know, it's for our future," and he was like, "Yep, that's absolutely fine." But he said, "I would like to maintain regular contact with you. I'm going to be in America all on my own in the middle of the forest." And Tania said, "Oh my god, Syngin, you're so needy." And Syngin said, "I don't have to speak to you for a long time, just like 15-20 minutes each day." And she said, "I can try, but I can't promise you that I'm going to phone you every day. You need so much more from me than I need from you. Tania, you're going to study a course. You're going to be with people. You're going to be rooming with people. You're going to be learning every day. And you're going to be holidaying in the evenings and at weekends. Syngin, on the other hand, is going to be sitting around doing next to nothing. Or I guess he's going to be a houseboy. But that's a red flag for later. And so of course Syngin's more likely to want to speak to you than you are to speak to him. The least you could have done is actually said, "Yes, I'll speak to you," and then actually called him when you said you would. Once she got to Costa Rica, she had no intention of ringing him, and sometimes Syngin would ring her 20 or 30 times before she answered. And red flag number 6 was that even though Tania knew she was going away for a month, she didn't organise anything productive for Syngin to do. So she didn't organise any friends for him to hang out with, not even once or twice a week. And because she refused to ring him regularly, he was left for great swathes of time to his own devices. But hey, what's this? Oh, thank God, it's Mum to the rescue. And Tania's mum, who looks like a pink hamster on Adderall, swooped in to the rescue. She decided to make Syngin her houseboy stroke slave. So just before Tania went, they devised a massive long list of all the jobs that were to be done. The grass needed cutting, the house needed washing down, the yard needed washing down. Massive piles of rubbish needed to be moved away, and there were many jobs around the house for Syngin to do. Syngin did not come for 90 days for an apprentice houseboy position. Syngin came for 90 days to get to know Tania, to decide, do I want to marry her? And I felt Tania let her mum take complete advantage of him. And not just that, she was also extremely tight with him. When Syngin took some of her Jack Daniels, she demanded he go straight back down to the shop and buy her another bottle. He's working for you for free, and don't talk about living quarters, because he lives in a bloody shed. Most people's dogs have better kennels than that place. It was laying empty anyway, so it hasn't cost you anything. So ostensibly, Syngin is working for you and your family, Tania, for free. And we're back to Costa Rica for red flag number 7 and 8. And when the TLC cameras turned up, Tania was there on the beach learning to dance with a rent-a-dread. Now, I caught loads of flack for saying rent-a-dread previously, but you guys, it's an actual thing, and those who are in the know are in the know. So when you go to Jamaica, where I'm from, or most of the Caribbean islands, there are guys who, for want of a better word, are gigolos, and they hang about on the beach, and they entertain, shall we say, holiday makers from Europe or America. Basically, it's usually older tourists with a bit of money, and they make themselves at your disposal for a fee for the duration of your holiday. And that's what a rented red is. And so that was the joke that I was making before. Tanya's there thinking, this is a friend. This guy's trying to make capital on you, Tanya. He sees you as a mark. But notwithstanding that, even though she's Spanish, this guy was teaching her how to dance salsa. And she was flirting wildly with him. And then later on that night, she went out with some of the girls she was dorming with to a club. And she invited this guy with her. So Syngin was trying to get hold of her and he was ringing and ringing. And finally he managed to FaceTime her. And what does she do? She's dancing with this guy. She puts the phone up and they're both chatting with Syngin. How disrespectful. And I can honestly say, if I was Syngin, I would have been apoplectic with rage. If my partner went on a working holiday and then rang me from a nightclub dancing around with another girl, he'd need to bring back quadruple the amount of herbal remedies in a desperate bid to keep him alive when I got my hands on him. And for me, that's a massive red flag because Tanya, 1, it's disrespectful, but 2, you don't even seem to know normal boundaries that everybody knows. So not only did Tanya flirt outrageously with this guy on the beach, she also had this guy chit-chat to Syngin in a nightclub as if there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. And that's a double red flag for Tanya. And in red flag number 9 was when she came back from Costa Rica and she was in the car with Syngin and they were talking about Syngin's plans to work. Now let's all just remember the process. You get your K1 visa, you come over, you spend 90 days together and you decide, are we compatible? After that you get married and then you apply for a green card. 4 or 5 months later your green card comes through and then, and only then, can you apply for a job. So Syngin's at least 6 or 7 months away from actually being able to work. But this doesn't stop Tanya. So Tanya, the person who currently isn't working, and the last job that we knew that she actually had was behind a bar. Tanya, that doesn't have her own apartment, or from what I can see, anything to call her own, started berating Syngin because she believes he has no work ethic. Just to put you guys in the picture, Syngin worked down a mine in South Africa for 7 years. Now we used to have mines in England and I remember there were very dirty, messy affairs, but people got very well paid in them because it was so dangerous. I thought perhaps it's the same in South Africa, so I decided to have a little look. And the first story I came across was a story of thousands of miners who had just won a compensation claim because they contracted fatal illnesses whilst working underground. And when I looked a bit further, I actually discovered that the health and safety processes that we have here do not exist in South Africa. And I remember Syngin actually saying some of his friends died down the mines, and he did that every day for 7 years. And this girl thinks that she can speak to him about a work ethic. Excuse me guys, I'm gonna have to pause recording. I need to actually calm down, my blood is boiling. So these miners have got things like tuberculosis, silicosis and asbestosis, all of which are terminal. And so after working in the mine and Syngin went to work behind a bar, he one day decided he wanted to travel to Thailand and he just jacked his job in and off he went. Tanya takes this one action as somebody not having a work ethic. Tanya, I take you and your whole life and your whole being as you not having a work ethic. And I can honestly say I don't blame Syngin. If you've had to work for many, many years in a really depressing and under life-threatening conditions, why wouldn't you want to travel? Why wouldn't you want to live every day to the full and experience different things? Tanya only ever sees things from her own point of view. Now she is ready to procreate. She doesn't care what Syngin does. She just wants him working away so he can create money to keep Tanya and her baby. Selfish, selfish, selfish. And the final red flag on my list, red flag number 10, is the time when Tanya told Syngin that her actual soulmate is her ex-boyfriend. I'll give you a few moments to let that sink in. Tanya decided she was going to call this faith healer, I forget her name, Afro astronomer or something like that, and she was an astronomer and she read your charts and she kind of worked out on what date you were born and the time you were born, if you were compatible. She seemed to think these guys were compatible. Young lady, I'd like to see your qualifications if you don't mind. But she also said, are you soulmates? And Syngin said, yeah, I feel we are, the way we met, how everything's happened, I think that we are soulmates. And Tanya said, I really don't think you're my soulmate. I kind of think that I've met my soulmate before. Tanya, do you know what a soulmate is? If that is actually your soulmate, you would be with him now because you would be physically drawn to him. You'd have a natural affinity to him. You'd be compatible in all ways, spiritually and sexually. And all of that may well be true on your side, Tanya, but as it turns out, he doesn't seem to want a bar of you. So guys, guys, I'm going to break down for you what I think the situation is. I think Tania had an ex-boyfriend, and that ex-boyfriend saw Tania for what she was, and when he jogged her on, Tania still holds a torch for this person. And because Tanya's so supercilious, she can't actually admit he wants no part of me, he wants nothing to do with me or my stank ways. And so to cover over that, she pretends it's my soulmate, but we're just not meant to be, not at the moment. Tania, you're never meant to be, and I think he decreed so. But understandably, Syngin was very, very upset, and it left Syngin wondering if the relationship was even worth it. If someone's not your soulmate and you're going to marry them and have a child as quickly as you possibly can, what does that mean for the future of your relationship? I know what it means to Syngin. You've left behind your family, your friends, your three-legged dog, and your whole way of life. For Tania, if she decides after a couple of kids you're superfluous to her needs, you're going to be in a sticky situation. You can either go back to South Africa and see your child long distance, or have a proper relationship with your child but be away from all of those that you love. And this is the worst red flag for me, because you've got this guy over here on what I think are pretty much false pretenses. So guys, that's the end of my roundup. Let me know what you think. I think Tania lives in a world where she's the focal point of everything. She's extremely arrogant, and she's got a maddening sense of her own importance. Her grand plan in life is to charge people to drink nettle tea and root juice to cure ailments and illnesses, which Western medicine seems to have superseded. And the only thing I think that Tania's got going for her is her resilience, because in the face of an absolute barrage of people saying you're very out of order from social media and from people and fans watching the show, Tania thinks, well, haters will be haters. And one of my subs, I don't recall who it is, but thank you anyway, sent me a 45-minute IG live with Tania, and people were asking her questions, and she was like, oh well, you know what, people are just haters. People don't like to see people doing well. Tania, you live in a shed, you don't have a job, and you create ripples in Syngin's glass of Jack Daniels when you walk across the room. I'm not jealous of you, not one little bit. Don't be ridiculous. If everybody says the same thing, you have to understand it's very possibly true. So guys, let me know what you think. What do you think is Tania's worst flag, and what do you think Syngin's next move should be now? I honestly think out of all the people on this season, she's the worst prospect to get married to. I really do. I hold out very little hope for Natalie and Mike, but I figure at least Natalie would get a baby out of it, and Mike kind of knows she's crazy. Tania's managed to somehow gaslight Syngin and make Syngin seem like he's needy, or he's out of order, or he's a moaner, or he has no work ethic. And I just think somebody needs to grab Syngin, possibly his friend from last week, and say, Syngin, this isn't right. His friend last week said, it's not my place to say anything. If not yours, then whose? It is your place to say. He's telling you things about his life because he needs advice, so give it to him. So guys, let me know what you think down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for regular updates and for specials just like this. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for listening. Ciao for now.